In this video, I'm gonna kind of test myself a little bit. Now, one thing I aim to do when making these videos is make every video better than the last. And one note, because I take notes on my videos, and one note that I wrote down a while ago is that I should be prepared in these videos with a topic every time. And in the past, I don't know, dozen or so videos, I haven't really done that. I've just been focusing on the work itself. But the thing is, sometimes when I have a topic in mind, I lose concentration on the drawing itself. So I don't want to lose concentration on the drawing, and I don't want to lose concentration on the topic. So I want to make sure in this particular video that I am able to not really compromise either one, to push both of them to the max. So that means I might slow down while talking a little bit. I might, make a side note about the drawing process, because I'm dedicating a certain portion of my brain to the visuals, and I'm dedicating a certain portion of my brain to the words. And if the two things are not related, in some way they'll always be related, because the topics I'm going to talk about, they could be art related, there could be just life related, and drawing is a big part of my life. So if I talk about anything life related, it's going to be related to this. Now, the thing that I want to talk about today is monks. I know there's a lot of people on YouTube who have talked about like monk-like discipline. And, what does that mean? There are many types of monks in this world. I, in particular, am inspired by Christian monks because I am a Christian. But there are many types of monks. In almost every religion, you might find some sort of asceticism, because these people recognize that there are things in the world that are useless to me, or they hinder me in attaining the type of mastery or the type of perfection that I want to achieve. So I'm going to reject it, whether it's food, sex, social life, or even basic needs like shelter. Going out into the forest, going out into the wilderness. Obviously, you need shelter to survive, but conventional shelters with nice amenities and buildings and things like that. These monks may make the choice to reject that. And I, without even getting to the specifics of the Christian monks that I follow, I can just speak generally and broadly that there are many monks in many religions that do this. Now, for me, I am not called to be a monk. Obviously, I'm a family man. I need to go home and cook and do chores and be with my family. So I'm not meant to go out into the cave and go out into the wilderness forever. At least I don't think, I have to obey God, whatever he calls me to do, but I don't think that God is calling me to do that. So, but why? Why draw inspiration from these monks? Because on some level, even if we're not called to fully, completely dive into the monk life, on some level, there are things that we can recognize. Okay, this is useless to me. This little piece of information, this little experience, even though it might have some, enjoyment to it, and probably some temporary enjoyment. That's even that, the temporary joys, a lot of those can be just distractions. They could be just sedation. They could be not useful. Not that something being useful is the ultimate end, but what is the ultimate end? And that depends on the monk. So for me, this is where I now get back into, okay, what does it mean to be a Christian monk? A Christian monk. So what is a Christian life? Is to be perfect, as Jesus said in Matthew chapter 5, be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. One of the most powerful lines for me in the Bible, because I always had this idea that everyone says since you're a child, no one's perfect. So it kind of tells you maybe perfection is an impossibility. Rather, the perfect thing to do is the striving of perfection. It is in that effort towards perfection and stumbling along the way. That's why we have the sacraments of confession. Father, forgive me for I have sinned. Let me try again. I'm sorry, let me try again. But why? Like, what is the ultimate end of it? because the ultimate end of it is that you can strive for some kind of perfection, at least perfection in virtue, because in following the 10 Commandments, which many religions use, a lot of the 10 Commandments are rules of no, saying no. And I've talked about this in some videos too. There are the no rules, and then there's the yes rules. When you're able to follow the no rules, good. You've eliminated a lot of vice from your life. You've eliminated a lot of distraction. You've eliminated bad things. But what then? Then you replace it. You replace the emptiness that's left with good things. Monks will spend a lot of energy emptying. There's that emptying and replacing. Well, monks will spend a lot of time emptying because they feel that without that emptying, you don't have the maximum space for the filling. So emptying out the bad, filling in with the good. Let's look at a Shaolin monk, for example. Now, I don't know much about the religion at all. I don't. But I do know that they train all the time. So now that they've rejected the things of the world, they're replacing it with training. Obviously work. I'm sure they do chores. I'm sure they do some kind of labor when they're over there. I don't really know what. Probably folding their clothes, laundry. I don't know if they grow their own food and do their gardens and stuff. I don't know. It probably depends on the monastery. I know in Christian monasteries, they really do prioritize work. They prioritize community, but they also prioritize their quiet and prayer time in their rooms. And again, it always depends on the order. For any of this, it depends on the specific order. So I'm just trying to speak generally here. I think the hands look a little bit big. I think it's okay. I think maybe this wrist here. Let's make it smaller. Maybe the elbow was brought down too far. There, that looks a little better. So, for those of you who know a little bit about me, you know that I have suffered from some behavioral addictions in the past. I'm still, I did join a 12-step program that some of you might know. And in the 12-step program, we talk about God, and we talk about surrendering our wills and our lives to God. And I know not everyone in the programs are Christian, but we say God as you know him. We say your higher power. So even if you're an atheist, you might be able to believe like that maybe the universe has some purpose for me, or maybe there's some meaning for me in the universe. Like whatever it is, the language we'll often use is God. But sometimes we'll say, surrender to your higher power. Or God as you understood him. Because, there's many different beliefs in God or gods or something. That's not to say I'm entering some non-denominational group, because my life is primarily Catholic. But the methodology in a 12-step program is all about surrender. It's about letting go of the thing that was so difficult to let go of, rather than fighting it directly, rather than saying, I'm going to force myself to stop, or rather than saying, I'm just going to keep doing the thing because it helps me escape my feelings. Instead of going in either of those directions, you just let go. You let go. You say, God, do this for me. God, just take it. Just take it. And it yields fantastic results. And the Christian life of a monk, that's what they're doing. They're rejecting, let's say, my social life, even my family at home, which I'm not meant to do. But they'll reject these things and say, God, take it. I don't need it. What I need is you, because you are the path to perfection. So there's so much beauty in that I found. And in a previous video, I talked about Saint Anthony, who seems to be the father of all Christian monks. There are many people who they call the father of Christian monks. They say Saint Benedict, Saint Basil. Each of them has their own way or rule. But when you really look at the history, these guys were inspired by a very mysterious monk from Egypt named Anthony. Anthony of the Desert, Anthony the Great, Anthony of Egypt. And you read his, I read his the account of his story written by Saint Athanasius. And he just has a nutty story, like where he has emptied himself of the world so much that he has a spiritual discernment to see these demons, and then he does battle with these demons. And when I say battle, I mean like they are tempting him every day. They're jeering at him. They're spitting on him. They're fighting him physically. It's kind of a crazy story, kind of hard to believe. And as with any story, and written many hundreds of years ago, you don't know how embellished those stories were. And if you let's say you're an atheist, you're a scientific person, you're you like empirical evidence, you like naturalistic explanations for things. Well, at the very least, one might be able to appreciate that this man rejected all these things to achieve a state of perfection in the mountain. That's the definition of a monk's life. So we're almost done with this frame. And have I compromised my concentration on the drawing? Maybe a little bit. So with that said, I do want to get this little fold in the crotch correctly. And because it's kind of been bothering me a little bit. I think that's fine right there. And then we'll go for the head. I notice my brain kind of naturally avoids the head when I'm concentrating on something else because maybe it requires too much concentration. Let's bring that onion skin back temporarily. There. So we can see how big the hair is. Have a little more pieces of hair in the back for Killua. Okay. His eyes down low here. Always kind of stern, but yet concentrated, yet cool eyebrows. That's a good face right there. Got that on the first try, which is what we've been trying to do lately. Prevent undos by getting things on the first try. Now his does have a little bit thicker eyelashes, and we want to maintain that space in his eye. There. Yeah, that's good enough. Again, with these transition frames, don't need to go too crazy over the details. Now this doesn't look like Killua. What is it? Is it the eyes still? Do the eyes need to be bigger? That looks better. Yeah, bigger eyes. Something still doesn't look like Killua. Maybe the shape of the hair? Okay. So what was I talking about? Monk, asceticism. I think you guys get the general idea of what I'm trying to say. In my life, starting a year ago, not only did I, gain and maintain sobriety from addictions with the help of God, but I started to recognize, okay, once you become sober, because we say in the 12-step program, sobriety is good, recovery is better, and that's the replacement that I've been talking about. Now you can remove something from your life, and that is step one. That is step one, and that step one can be extremely difficult. Now that's not step one of the 12-step program. Don't get me wrong. That's step one of the 12-step program is just admitting fault, admitting that our lives have become unmanageable. But step one, of returning to a good life. Not necessarily returning, but in making real improvement to that life is like you get rid of you follow the no rules, you get rid of the vice, and you replace it with virtue. You replace it with the pursuit of perfection. So you start following the yes rules. Yeah, I think it was the shape of the head. I think we need to make sure that the back of his head is like still has that hair volume. I think the knee is too low. Or that fold in the pants was a little bit too low. There, that's better. I'm almost done here already, which is good. We've been talking, but we're getting it done. So for me, my right now, my favorite chapter in the Bible is the Gospel of Matthew chapter 5. Because Jesus is just constantly talking throughout the whole thing. It's just an entire book of his teachings. St. Matthew must have been sitting there just amazed at like this is the amount of wisdom that Jesus kind of has been getting to people. Maybe Jesus like told all these teachings over the course of a few days, and Matthew like compiled it, on one talk. But it's just a fantastic book of just straight up teachings. And that's where Be Perfect as your Heavenly Father is perfect came from. Jesus talked about mercy. He talked about how to live. And those are the rules of excellence, because Jesus is not just saying don't do this, don't do that. Jesus is saying, okay, here's what you should do. And we know that, I acknowledge in Christianity is not a religion of moral teaching. That's part of it, yeah. And every religion is going to have moral teaching, and every religion might have similar moral teaching. Christianity is not about that. Christianity is about a relationship with Jesus the Savior. But Jesus, coming down, did have moral teachings, and they're really good. As a Christian, I would say they're perfect. But if you're not Christian, you can take a look at them and see, are these good teachings? And, weigh them against your own morals and values and your own belief systems and moral systems. And you can judge, are these good teachings? And I would say that most people would actually take a look at the teachings of Jesus and say, yeah, this is good. I think most people will like be annoyed with Christians for sure. You can be annoyed with Christians and say, I don't think, the Christian church or the Catholic Church are like full of good people. They're full of flawed people. I don't want to follow them because of the flawed people. But if you take a look at the moral teachings of Jesus, I think most people will find they're pretty darn good. And here's an interesting question I have to anyone who might not. To any of you who have a problem, not with Christianity, but with Jesus, is there anything he said that doesn't sit right with you? Now, I can completely understand him saying, I am the Son of God and stuff like that. But as far as moral teaching goes, what problems do you have with Jesus is what I wonder. Now, Jesus didn't say, go into the mountain and pray, until you drop. That's what St. Anthony did. Jesus went into the mountain for 40 days, or the desert for 40 days, and then returned to his ministry. So he returned to community so he can love and serve people. And I think most people are called to do that. You want to deny yourself the things that are unnecessary, the things that aren't good for you, and you empty that space and fill it with virtue. Hold on here. We want to fill up more of this. Okay. But if you want for us to follow Jesus, you can follow in his footsteps and say, you know what? I need a time of a desert. I need a little bit of that time in my life so that I can get rid of these things. That's why we have Lent. That's why we, I don't know, like, for example, I know that Muslims have Ramadan. I don't know the purpose of it. I don't really know. But if I were to guess, any type of sacrificial activity Well, obviously it's for God, but there's any element of sacrificial activity, there's going to be an element of self-mastery to it. Like, for example, the purpose of Lent is not to master oneself, but that mastering oneself is a byproduct of temperance. You know, temperance of being able to say no to, I think there's a distinction to be made. Like, I think temperance is the overcoming internal obstacles to holiness, and fortitude is overcoming external hindrances, external obstacles to holiness. I think we got it. You know, we were talking the whole time. I think we got it. So let's zoom out here. So there's a lot I can say about this, and maybe we'll continue with this topic, but oh, that looks sweet. That looks sweet. That looks very good. Now, after this, we'll get into the electric burst. So we'll stop the video here, and I had a good time, you know, talking about that topic. Did I compromise the concentration? I think a little bit, but it wasn't as bad. It wasn't as bad as other times. It was mostly in that confusing area and around the crotch with the folds in the pants, and even then I still think it could be improved a lot. In fact, I might do it now. Oops, it needs to be technical pen. Make sure I'm in the right layer here, yeah. I mean, is it a big deal, you know? It's one of those, it's a frame, it's in transitional frame. I don't think it's a big deal, guys. But you know what? I might even erase this part. And go back to Studio Pen. Yeah, and just keep it simple like that. Okay, I think that'll be all. So I'll talk to you guys later. And I'll keep going with another topic. I'm just going to keep some topics in mind as I start these videos. I think for me that should be a prerequisite. So I'll talk to you guys soon. God bless. Bye-bye.